This video will show you how to use quadratic formula to solve a quadratic equation. The general form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So if we were given an equation 5x squared plus 2x minus 7 equals 0, the a would be 5, the b would be the 2, and the c would be the negative 7. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So if we plug in the a, the b, and the c into this formula, we would get x equals negative 2 plus or minus 4 plus 140. The 140 would be negative 4 times 5 times negative 7. And then that's over 10, 2 times 5. So then we will have x equals negative 2 plus or minus 12 over 10. And so if we were to solve for x, we will have x would equal to either 10 over 10, which is 1, or it would be x equals negative 14 over 10, and that will equals negative 7 over 5. So these are the two answers for x. Now, if we want to check if these are done correctly, what we can do is plug in the numbers back to the original equation. So we're going to plug them back into the 5x squared plus 2x minus 7. Okay, so our original equation was 5x squared plus 2x minus 7 equals 0. And the answer we have for x is either 1 or negative 7 over 5. And we're going to go ahead and plug back in and see if the equation makes sense. So we'll plug in the 1 first. So that would be 5, 1 squared plus 2 minus 7 equals 0. And that would come out to 5 plus 2 minus 7 equals 0, which is 7 minus 7 equals 0. So the first answer checks out. Now we're going to try the second one, which is negative 7 over 5. So we have 5 over negative 7 over 5 squared plus 2 times negative 7 over 5 minus 7 equals 0. And we will get 245 over 25 minus 14 over 5 minus 7 equals 0. Okay. So then that comes out to 7 minus 7 equals 0. So the second answer also checks out. So that is one way that you can do to verify that you've done and got the answers correctly by plugging the x value back into the original equation. Now let's try a different question. Negative 3x equals negative x squared plus 10. Before you determine what is the a value, b value, and c value, what you want to do is rearrange the formula. So what we do is we will do plus x squared minus 10 and move on to the other side. So then we will end up with x squared minus 3x minus 10. So we always wanted the value to be x squared first, and then x after, and then the number. After that, we would know that the value of a will equals 1, b equals negative 3, c equals negative 10. And we got that by taking the value here, here, and here. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing by plugging it into the quadratic equation. So again, that's minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And that will equal negative times negative 3 plus or minus square root of 49 over 2. Then we will have 3 plus or minus square root of 49 over 2. And that will give us 10 over 2, which is 5. Or negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. So these are the two answers to this question. Now we're going to do the same thing again, plugging the two answers back into the original equation, just to make sure that this was done properly. So the original equation that we had was x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. Okay, and the answer that we had previously was x equals 5 or negative 2. Okay, so we're going to plug in the 5. So we have 5 squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. And then we have 25 minus 3 times 5 minus 10 equals 0. Then we have 25 minus 15 minus 10 equals 0. And ultimately that gives us a 10 minus 10 equals 0, which tells us that the answer is correct. So now that we completed the plug-in of the number 5, now we're going to do the number negative 2. So negative 2 square minus 3 to the negative 2 minus 10 equals 0. And that would give us 4 plus 6 minus 10 equals 0. And that would be 10 minus 10 equals 0. So the answer also checks out for negative 2. Now let's try another question. Negative 56 equals 15x plus x squared. Okay, we would need to first distinguish which ones are A, B, and C. Again, this one, the equation tries to throw you off by changing the order of the x squared, x, and then the number. So what we want to do is rearrange them so that we can distinguish which ones are A, B, and C. So we will rewrite this as x squared plus 15x plus 56. And from here we know A equals 1, B equals 15, and C equals 56. And we got them from here, here, and here. Okay, again, we're going to go ahead and plug into the quadratic formula, and that is negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And what we will have is negative 15 plus or minus 225 minus 224 over 2. And that would give us x equals negative 15 plus or minus 1 over 2, which equals negative 14 over 2, negative 7, or it could be negative 16 over 2, which is negative 8. So these are the two answers for this equation. Now we're going to go ahead and plug in the answers to the original equation, which is x squared plus 15x plus 56 equals 0. Okay, and the x that we have is negative 7 or negative 8. So we're going to start with negative 7 first. Negative 7 squared plus 15 times 7, negative 7 plus 56 equals 0. Okay, and that gives us 49 minus 105 plus 56 equals 0. So that will count to negative 56 plus 56 equals 0. So the first answer checks out. Now we're going to do the same for the second one, which is the negative 8. So negative 8 squared plus 15 times negative 8 plus 56 equals 0. And that gives us 64 minus 120 plus 56 equals 0. And ultimately that's 120 minus 120 equals 0. So the second answer also checks out. So the three equations that are shown today is how you would solve a quadratic equation with quadratic formula. Thank you for watching.